Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. My name is Alejandra Jasso, and I will be your host for this wonderful webinar. I am very happy to introduce our teacher guests, Tim Lowenhaupt and Nicolas Blasha. Thank you so much for coming this morning. Hi, Tim. How are you today?
I'm good. We're just waiting for Nick.
Yes. Meanwhile, we are waiting. Could you give us a few updates of what is ACI doing lately?
Well, welcome everybody, first of all. Let me see all the translators. There we go. So where we are in ACI is we're actually at a very important crossroads in our history. And where we are is that we've actually been around for 30 years. Many of you have not been around for 30 years, including myself. When ACI started, I was in high school, right? And actually, I was really close to the original ACI classes. I'd lived about maybe 4 hours away driving. And ACI was only taught online, in person at the time. We only had small classes. We only had, word of mouth mainly. I know people who found ACI because they saw a flyer in the subway of New York. Right. And so that, over the years, those classes grew quite. Hey guys, can you promote Nick, please? He's here.
I just did it.
There he is.
Thank you. Hi, guys.
I'm in the middle of telling a little story about ACI, Nick.
Yes, I heard. Very good.
And so the classes grew and grew and grew. We built a retreat center in Arizona. And then in the late 2000s, early 2010s, we started recording online. And at that point, Geshe Michael was traveling significantly around the world. And we just started having online events. We never made a big deal about it. We just tried. And then obviously, as you guys know, through COVID, now we offer, how many languages are here today? Ale? 9, 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 11 languages, it looks like. And we offer all of our programs in those languages. So do I have access to do that? Yes, okay. So I don't know if you guys can see this, but these are our translators. If everyone can see the gallery view. These are the people that are making it accessible to you. So ACI is no longer just, one person giving a class. There's 12 people giving a class, right? And so so what's coming is that we're going to be celebrating our 30 years anniversary at the end of the year in Kyoto, Japan, where we're going to tell you all the stories of ACI. Who started it, what the challenges were, what the successes were. And we're going to be doing it in 11 or 12 languages. So that's kind of where we're going based on Ale's arm twisting question. So let's go, Ale.
All right. Thank you so much, Tim. for giving us a few hints of what is going on in ACI. Thank you so much, Nick, for joining us this afternoon, I guess, where you are right now.
This is my afternoon. Yeah, yeah.
You look great, by the way.
Well, thank you.
So thank you so much for both of you and all the participants who are in this webinar. Shall we start with an amazing class?
Sure.
Thank you.
So I'm going to introduce to you, you guys may know me. My name's Tim Lowenhaupt, and I'm the executive director of ACI. And Nick Lashaw Nick kind of guided me into ACI many, many years ago. I met him in Phoenix, and he was already significantly involved in the organizations. And he guided me quite well into how our organizations operate. And he gave me the opportunity to serve as well. And over the years, we've developed a really good friendship. And now Nick is the executive director, I believe is your title, or co-director.
Sometimes we say executive. I'm not sure what it means, but I think I execute things.
Sure, it sounds fancy.
Things, not people. Yeah, obviously.
Of the Diamond Cutter Classics, which is our flagship translation program from the ancient languages, mainly from Tibetan, into English. And he's here with us today because we're going to give a class today on Arya Nagarjuna, because we have an upcoming program about that, which we'll tell you about later. And so Nick is as director, he's also a translator himself, a very, very good translator, in my opinion. And he's also translating Nagarjuna. I don't know how you do it, Nick, but it's quite a feat. So Nick, could you tell us a little bit about what you translate and a little bit about Arya Nagarjuna?
Okay, sure. Thank you, Tim, for that. And yeah, me and Tim have been friends for a long time. And yeah, it's been fun. We got to work together I was kind of growing ACI a little bit, and then Tim took over and created this massive worldwide presence. So very, very grateful for all that Tim has done to make ACI into this incredible, massive organization that, is helping so many people to dive deeper into the ideas of, Tibetan Buddhism in the most clear way possible that it could be explained. Nagarjuna, I am working on translating him with close help from Geshe Michael, because it's not easy stuff. And the first book that I worked on was called The 60 Verses on Reasoning. And it was a commentary to that, actually written by Gyaltsab Je, who's also hard to understand. And I would not have understood almost any of it without Geshe Michael. And now we are putting the finishing touches on this book, which is called A Commentary to the 60 Verses on Reasoning. It will have another title in English, but and it's a surprise. Okay, it's coming. But
surprise, like you don't know what it is yet?
No, it's like, I don't want to say. I want Geshe Michael to be able to announce it. It's a cool title. Probably some of you guys know. Anyway, I wouldn't, even reading it now, I'm like, oh my gosh, like I still barely understand this. Like I spent 5 years with my head buried in this book, and it's really tough to understand. And now I'm working on another book by Arya Nagarjuna called Ratnamala in Sanskrit, which was his original language. It's kind of like String of Jewels, and it's a letter written to a king, and it's a much more straightforward book. It's kind of a teaching of the steps on the path, and it teaches you how to, conduct yourself to reach enlightenment, but also teaches you how to conduct yourself just in the world, because it's a letter written to a king. And I think something interesting that I'm learning is that, and I'm learning right now because I'm working so much on the 60 verses, is that Arya Nagarjuna wrote so much different stuff. Like, he's really well known for this deep, complex philosophy that is mind-bending and mind-opening and extremely important, because he's the founder, basically, of Madhyamaka Prasangika philosophy. I mean, other than Buddha. And that's amazing. But he also wrote tons of stuff. He wrote lots of like praises and tantric stuff, and simple life instructions. And he was the monastery's accountant, and he was an alchemist. He knew how to transform like base metal into gold, and he could do all this crazy magic to help keep the monastery alive. He was a man of many talents. So my point is, he's known for this mind-bending stuff, but he's done a lot. And we're going to talk about the mind-bending stuff. And that's really cool. And the book that's coming, that Geshe Michael's been teaching, I think mostly, if not all, at Diamond Mountain, is Wisdom. It's just called Wisdom. Prajna. And it's quite possibly the greatest book ever. And it changed my life. And I'll tell you a little bit of my own story. So I first learned about Geshe Michael and basically first got into this lineage of Buddhist teachings through the Three Jewels in New York City. And I'm from New York, and that's where I lived at the time. And I went, okay, Ula, I will go slower, yes. I went to a few classes. There was some ACI classes going on. I remember this teacher, Venerable Punsok, was teaching. He was amazing. I would go to his classes. And I stumbled into one class called The Root Text on Wisdom. That's what it was called at the time. It was part of a series, The Root Text on Wisdom. I was like, okay, that sounds interesting. And I went, and I left feeling confused and unsatisfied. I went to a few sessions. I didn't go to the whole course, but I learned, I heard about the pen, and I was not very impressed. I heard this idea like, oh, the pen, it's a human sees it as a pen, a dog sees it as a chew toy. And so, therefore, like, your mind, it's coming from your mind. I was like, yeah, big deal. That's what I thought. I was like, everybody knows that, I was like, that's kind of like basic psychology. I didn't totally get the depth of it. And I didn't fully understand the implication about seeds when I first heard about it. Even though it was mentioned, I just didn't totally put it together. And, somebody was presenting these ideas of Nagarjuna, like about the seed and the sprout, which I'll talk about in a minute. And they just said, look, like, it just means something's not right. And therefore it's must be coming from your mind, so therefore it's all coming from you, and therefore it's all your goodness. And I just wasn't convinced, I was like, why? So I came back to another teaching on Arya Nagarjuna, and I heard this explanation to another of the same class. And I heard this explanation of the seed and the sprout. And this is the thing. I love to talk about it. Tim, is it okay time for me to talk about this?
Oh, yeah, go for it.
Okay. I love to talk about this because I feel like this is where I really started to see that something's strange about the way that we see the world. So, you guys have all probably heard this before, but I'm going to say it because it's important. It's important for understanding Arya Nagarjuna's contribution to philosophy, especially the philosophy that we're all studying together here in ACI. So we have to think in terms of definitions. So what is a cause? How would we define a cause? And if we look it up, one definition that we find is a cause is something that produces a result. Okay, that's cool. What is a result? A result is something that comes from a cause. Very good. They tie together. No problem. So we say in terms of a seed and a sprout, we're going to take this as an example, although you could use any example of a cause and effect. In the example of a seed and a sprout, we say a seed is the cause for a sprout. A seed causes a sprout to come. Cool. Okay, so is the seed a cause? By definition, I would say no. Okay, I have a seed here in my hand. We just said the thing that causes a result is a cause. And then we would say, most of us would say, okay, a seed causes us. We would say, okay, a seed causes a sprout, so therefore the seed is the cause. The sprout is the result of the seed. Okay, so the sprout is the result. Cool. So is the seed a cause? You can't say it is. Why? Because if you have a seed in my hand, if I have a seed in my hand, did it cause a sprout yet? No, it's just a seed, okay? So this seed that I have in my hand is not a cause because it did not produce a result. So by definition, the seed that we call a cause didn't cause anything and therefore is not a cause. Let's take a look at the sprout. Here's a sprout. Did it come from the seed? Yeah. Okay. So this sprout is a result of a cause? Yeah. What cause? Where's the seed? When the sprout comes, the seed is already destroyed. Okay, the seed is gone. Okay, so a result is something that came from or comes from a cause. The seed is gone. There is no cause. The cause is gone. Okay, so is the seed a cause? No, because when the seed exists, it still has not produced a result. And when the sprout exists, the thing that caused it is gone. Okay, so, but a seed and a sprout need each other to be a cause and effect. Okay, that's the point. A sprout is a result depending on the cause, the seed, but they don't exist at the same time. So how is it possible that there is a such thing as a cause and effect? They don't exist. A seed is not really a cause. A sprout is not really a result. Seed is not really a cause. Sprout is not really a result. Because if a seed was really a cause, it would already be a cause before the sprout came, while it exists. But we can never point to a seed and say it's a cause. So something's wrong. Something's fishy. Something doesn't add up. And that's the whole point of what Nagarjuna is showing us. The way that we see the world, the way that we talk about the world has some flaws in it. The language is flawed. There's something wrong with the way that we're seeing things, the way that we're talking about things. Is the seed a cause? I mean, Nagarjuna just proved that a seed is not a cause and that a sprout is not a result. But is it a seed? Is a seed a cause? Yeah, it is. Why? Why can we say it's a cause? Why can we say a sprout is a result? Because we label it that. Because we have a mind that is able to take the result and take the cause and put them together and say, there, that's a cause. But without a mind to make that story, without those labels, there is no cause and there is no result. They don't exist the way that our minds want them to exist. They don't exist the way that we tend, without examining it, they don't exist the way that we think they do. Sorry that I was talking so fast. For you translators, I'm sorry. I'm trying to find the right speed for this. So I think we got it. This is the radical beauty of the Prasangika system. This is the power of what Nagarjuna is offering. He shows us again and again that the world doesn't and can't exist the way we naturally think it does. We think cause and effect, seed and sprout, they have some power in them to be what they are. But the truth is, they cannot be what we think they are without us making the story. And so this idea, we can go into it deeper and examine how everything in the world is just the same. Could not be anything without the story that's coming from our minds. And it was a big deal when Nagarjuna said it at 200 AD. And it's still a big deal today. Because humans and animals, but importantly, humans, we see the world wrong. We see things as if they were themselves in a way in which they're not. And the 60 verses, this book that I've just been working on, that'll be out soon, so get your copy when you can. It's really interesting. It's a really cool book because for a lot of the book, he is talking about how the process, how cause and effect themselves are empty of being cause and effect from, independently, are empty of being what they seem. So the process of reality coming into existence from seeds in our minds is also lacking in any reality the way that we would like it to be. Like our minds want something to be the real truth. The book is not available yet, to answer your questions. It's not finished. It's coming. So, but that book is going to talk about how cause and effect, this process of reality coming into existence based upon seeds in our minds, also is that process is also dependent upon labels in our minds. So it's deep. And it's cool and it's fun. Anyway, that explanation's put a crack in my mind. Okay, for me, that explanation of the seed and the sprout, that put like a crack in my mind. Then I was like, maybe we are seeing things wrong. Then I went to some classes with Geshe Michael. First, I went to a class where he's teaching the pen. He's like waving this pen around, like, and I was like, okay, yeah, big deal, you know. And I was kind of like, But then my friend dragged me. She sponsored me to come to this other teaching at a yoga studio in New York with Geshe Michael. And then it was like 10 days, super intense. And I was just like this kid, you know, like from the street. Like I felt so out of place being in this room with all these like very clean and beautiful people. like I felt so strange, like going into these like all these yogis, and they're all so perfect and everybody's like bowing, and I was like, what is going on? Like I just felt so like dirty. I don't know. I felt weird. I didn't feel like pure enough to be there, but I was there. And then Geshe Michael started talking about this thing where like there's a door, like you think you see a door. He likes to talk about a door. He said, you think you see a door, and you think that when you're walking toward a door, like you think you're walking and that you're getting closer, and that's why the door looks bigger. But actually, it's seeds opening in your mind, giving you the image of a door that's getting bigger and bigger, an image of yourself, and the space getting less and less. And it's just frames, like seeds opening in your mind, like a movie projector. And when they explained it like that, I was like, whoa, like no way, you know. I was like, there's no way, like the world is that subjective. You know, I turned to somebody and I was like, so they're saying it's kind of like The Matrix, the movie, you know. This was, and then my buddy is like, yeah, you know, like, or this guy, he was like, yeah, he became my friend later. And I was like, well, okay. I mean, my mind was still like rejecting it, like fighting it. But I was very interested. I still am. My mind is still rejecting it. I'm still very interested. This was 14 years ago, 15 years ago. So still trying to figure it out. Definitely interested. Made it my life's work to get to the bottom of it. It was cool though. I had some pretty amazing experience. Like in that class, like my mind was blown. Then I had this like Geshe, I don't know, I had this weird feeling that like I was very connected to the teachers, and I felt like I was like floating. And I I didn't want to have any of those experiences, you know. But I was like, I have to just keep diving into this. And then at the end of the class, Geshe Michael like reached over a bunch of people and handed me like a plastic grape. It was so cool. I was like, okay. It's like, I think I still have it somewhere. My friend was like, what did he give you? She like freaked out. She tried to grab it. I was like, no, it's mine, you know. Anyway, that's kind of how I started to get interested in Nagarjuna. And I think that if we can open our minds and let Nagarjuna put those cracks in there to how we see the world, then I think it's really helpful to our progress as humans and spiritually. And I'll give one more piece of advice, and then I would like to hear Tim share his thoughts on this. But when you're meditating on stuff like this, or when you're thinking about stuff like this, try, even though you might know like what conclusion you're supposed to come to because you've already studied, like try to make your study, your contemplation, and your meditation more like an open-ended question, and see what kind of answers come from like doing an analysis, instead of trying to arrive at the conclusion that the Gelugpa teachers already listed as the conclusions that you're supposed to come to. Because this lineage is amazing, and you can find out how your mind and the whole world works. But we're also very intellectual heavy. I think an important part of our own personal practice and progress is allowing the space for our mind to come to these realizations and to grow and to arrive at our own conclusions. So take that for what it's worth, please. What do you think, Tim?
What do I think? Well, Nick, I think what you said was really, you mentioned it as a crack in your mind, and I thought that was really a good way of going at it, because with all the logical looping that we kind of do in these analysis, like, can it open up that space for your mind to go, something's not right? And I thought that was a really good way of thinking about it. I was watching the translators, try to grab all of the logic of it. And good job, by the way. I was watching you all.
Yeah, and I'm sorry for my speed. I got excited.
Yeah, I get excited too, because it's, and I think the more that you contemplate these things, the more natural it becomes when you're speaking it. It's like, well, and so what I wanted to go into, and Nick, you kind of opened up an idea for me. And so I was quickly making a PowerPoint while you were talking. So thanks. I was thinking, how can we connect that idea of the seed and the sprout and something that we tend to do in our practice, like something that we do in our practice every day, and we think it has a result, like something that we do. And we're connecting this particular topic to the Medicine Buddha practice, which is coming up in about a month and a half at Diamond Mountain, where Geshe Michael is going to be going deep into, we're finishing up the wisdom book. We have 6 more chapters, and I think we're going to get through 3 or 4. And actually, we're going to be talking about, there's a whole chapter on emptiness itself. From what I've read, it is the most famous chapter on emptiness of Nagarjuna. Of course, we probably said that about every verse, but it's a famous chapter on emptiness. So, but we're trying to connect these ideas to our own spiritual practice and also to our day-to-day life. And after we talked the other day, Nick, I've been thinking about, I was thinking about the sprout, the seed and the sprout. And I was just, last night I was at the gym, I was watching people do exercises, including myself.
Oh, okay. I was going to laugh at that. Watching people.
I don't know if
it works.
I just went there to watch people. That's not creepy. And I was thinking, wow, including the people here and myself, we all think that by doing these exercises, we're going to get stronger. We think we're going to get healthier. We're going to heal injuries. And I was thinking, wow, that's kind of what we think about the Medicine Buddha practice. This is where my mind went. Mm-hmm. We think by doing Medicine Buddha mantras, we're going to create some kind of healing in the world. And that's what we sell, right? That's what we sell in these practice, in these events, and in the practice is that if we, on a regular basis, do the sadhanas, and I know some of you have regular sadhana practices, that we're going to get some kind of result. And usually, in Medicine Buddha and other sadhana practices, there's usually a mantra component where we then recite words, right? Words in Tibetan or words in Sanskrit. And we recite them over and over again. Nice, we got 1 sign up from the chat. So we recite them over and over again, and we're like, we're going to get some result out of this, right? And I've done long retreat. I've done several month-long retreats where you're supposed to recite mantra like 100,000 times, 110,000 times, right? And I was thinking about it, like, when you're in retreat, you're on like day 20 and you're doing, 6,000 mantras a day or whatever your count is. Like the thoughts pop in your mind, like, what am I doing? Like, what am I really doing here? I've been sitting here for 20 days by myself, and I'm just reciting these words over and over again. What do I hope they will achieve? Like, what do I hope they will do for me or for the world? And I think the whole point is that those words in and of themselves can't do anything by themselves. And then someone will argue and say, well, a holy being spoke them. Maybe your teacher gave them to you. Okay. But, all we need to do is do a quick analysis to see, do those words, do mantras do anything for you by themselves? Right? So quickly, let's do a quick analysis. Can those mantras, let's do Medicine Buddha mantra, can they create the desired effect, like some kind of healing of sickness? Does anybody know a case where someone has done mantras and they've seen a result of healing? It's like, look in the chat. Some people have said yes, right? I've heard stories of people say, yes, they do create healing. Well, are there cases where people do the mantras and no healing happens? I mean, there's some people that might do mantras for years and never see any kind of results. You know, okay, and here's let's do it a different way. Do some people get healed? Like they were sick and they get better without somebody saying a mantra? Have you ever gotten a cold or a flu or COVID and didn't say any mantras and then you got better? Okay, right? And are there cases where people didn't heal at all and didn't do any mantra, like they stayed sick? Maybe they died, sadly. Okay. So now we have 4 cases, right? So let's ask the question, do mantras heal? If they had the ability to heal because they're a mantra, every time you said it, when you got COVID, you would be healed in the next moment, or then, you know, or your cancer would go away. Right? So the funny thing is we can do the analysis, right? We can do that analysis. But do you hold on to those thoughts when you get into retreat and you're on day 20 and you're just reciting the mantras over and over again? Are you thinking like that? I would say, I know from my own personal experience, it's hard. It's hard to keep bringing the mind back, you know, and that's why we keep doing these courses over and over again, why we keep, you know, Nick said, you know, the first time he heard it, he understood there's a crack in reality. And then he also said he's still translating and he doesn't understand everything. Those are the words he said, you know. And I don't know exactly what's in Nick's mind, but if it sounds like what's like what my mind's like, I constantly have to be reminded, right? So I'm going to show you guys a little PowerPoint that sometimes visuals help, and this helps me remember. Oops, hello there. So let's start with mantra, right? You know, it seems like, and if you go to the classes and it seems like in a logical way, you do mantra, you plant a seed, right? That's what Nick was talking about. You plant a seed, right? You put a watermelon seed in the ground, and eventually, if with the proper conditions, the watermelon grows, and you got a watermelon in 6 months, right? You do your mantras, you do your medicine Buddha mantras as a cause, and then you get the healing from it as a result. That kind of feels nice to us, I think. And that's kind of how we normally think of things. You know, 4 steps, you know, even thinking about, you could apply this to the 4 steps too. I'm going to be generous. And so I'm going to get money back, or I'm going to get some kind of generosity back, or something like that. It feels that way, right? Like linearly, cause then effect, right? But Nick said something. He said, well, what if you think about it, like if the seed, when the seed ripens, when does the seed become a sprout? At what moment is the seed has ripened into the result? When does the mantra ripen into the healing? So if you have healing, is the mantra still there? Okay. Once you feel better, you feel healthy, is the mantra still there? Well, no, because the mantra turned into the healing, right? The mantra became the healing. The mantra was the seed and the healing happened. But if they're separate things, because you can see here that they're separate things, how could they cause each other? How could one be a cause for the other? So where the mind goes, it goes, well, they have to overlap, right? Well, they have to overlap, because if they don't ever touch each other, how can they cause each other? Right? If the mantra never does anything, or when the healing is there, the mantra is gone. When the sprout is there, the seed is gone, and they never touched each other, then how could the seed have created the result? So then we say, okay, well, they have to touch, they have to overlap in some way. And conceptually, to me, that feels nice, right? I think it feels nice. So then the question is, which part touches which part? Which part of the mantra creates the healing? Is it the left side of the mantra, the beginning of the mantra, or the right side of the mantra, the end of the mantra, unless we're doing right to left languages? My apologies for being culturally chauvinistic. Which part of the mantra becomes the healing? You could say, well, actually, the whole mantra is the healing. Okay, well, then the mantra and the healing are the same thing. They're not separate things. You can't tell me that if a part of the mantra is part of the healing, then they are the same thing. They are overlapping. They don't have a separate identity. They aren't two things. So how can you talk about two things if they're one thing? Okay, all right. Well, Tim, all right, that's fine. I almost call myself Nick, Tim. Nick, you know what I mean?
It's a common confusion.
But and it's probably confusing that we're teaching a class together.
People often thought we were the same person, speaking of what you're talking about now. So if they overlap in some way, then somehow they are the same thing. And so they couldn't be separate things. There couldn't be a mantra and a healing if they overlapped or they touched each other in some way. Then people argue, well, there's a transformation. You can do the same argument in a transformation. At what point does the mantra transform into the healing? Where does the conversion happen? At what point in time or what piece? Okay, so it's the very end of the mantra that turns into the healing. Okay, so that piece becomes the healing. So then the healing is the mantra. You have this is where the mind goes in this analysis. And I like what Nick said. I really like what you said, Nick. Don't know what the answer is supposed to be at the end. Sure, it's nice to get to the answer and corroborate. Is that a word? To
make sure it lines up that you get the same answer. But the more you analyze it, the more, if you do it yourself, then you start coming to these cracks yourself in your own mind. Okay. They kind of, you can get to that answer yourself, or you can get to the answer because that's the prescribed answer, or you could keep doing that analysis. So for me, this picture, you can move the bubbles around, right? Move the mantra and the healing bubble closer together, make them further apart. Just have the very end of the mantra touch the very beginning of the healing, right? And find out, well, when is the mantra the healing? When does the mantra become the healing? When does the seed become the sprout? When does your generosity become financial independence or financial freedom? When does your visits to the nursing home become your spiritual partner? Right? When does it flop over? When does it become that? And then the other thing that Nagarjuna says, then we're going to kind of end, is like, okay, well, it can't be a mantra until there's healing. Here's another analysis. You can't have a mantra until you have the healing. So the healing started first. You had a healing, and then you go and then you go backwards. And you say, okay, well, that was only a mantra because you had the result. And you have to think about why that's also a wrong idea too. But we did all three of the ideas. Let's go back to the beginning here, right? We start with the mantra and it creates healing. That feels pretty nice. But then we understand that they never touch each other. Okay, so they have to touch each other. And okay, well, if they overlap in some way, then they aren't separate and they're the same thing. It's like Tim and Nick. Tim and Nick are this, they get us confused. Right. And if you ever called me Nick, or you've ever called Nick Tim, it's quite a fun, it's hysterical to me. But I think it's some weird Nagarjunian thing that's happening. Like Nick and Tim are not the same. Look, we're two boxes on the screen. Okay. Or do our boxes overlap? Do they touch? I don't know. So then you go, okay, well, it's the healing that happens. And then because the healing happens, you can say there was a mantra. Like if you look at a watermelon, you can say, well, because there was a watermelon, there had to have been a seed for a watermelon. But it wasn't a seed, and it wasn't a seed yet until there was a watermelon. There wasn't a mantra yet until there was healing. And you have to analyze why that idea is a little fishy as well. So what? Okay, so now what? Right? What does that do for you? I really think, this is what I was thinking last night at the gym. I think if you can hold these types of analysis in your mind, like, oh, I'm doing exercises to rehabilitate my knee. Do those exercises help? Doing mantras that are supposed to create healing. Do those mantras work? And so when we get into those spaces, it feels destabilizing. And sometimes you're like, well, what am I supposed to do, Tim? What am I supposed to do? What you're supposed to do is sign up for a Medicine Buddha retreat, but that's not what I'm really going to say. No, what you need to do is you need to take these into your own practice and do that kind of work. Like, what can you, when you're doing something and when we do things, we're intending for a result, typically. Like, I'm typically, there's always a little bit of selfishness in what I'm doing. So I'm doing something for a result, even if it has bodhicitta in it. I'm doing it to serve other people. Like, I'm hoping that they're helped, or they're calmer, or they're healthier, or they're being taken care of. There's some kind of, I want a result, or I'm hoping for a result. But if I do these analyses, I then have to look at my own mind and say, well, I might be misunderstanding this. I might be misunderstanding how the cause creates the result. We didn't say, neither Nick nor I said, that there isn't cause and result, cause and effect. But it's how is there cause and effect?
Yeah, and our cause and effect, what our mind wants it to be, or what we think it is.
What happened to this? I wanted both
I
of
don't
us.
know. They spotlighted on me.
Oh, damn it. I want both of us. There we go. There. Can you say that again? I think that was really insightful.
I forgot what I said. Oh, yeah. And you said, and is cause and effect what our mind wants it to be? Like, is it like our mind seems to have this tendency to really want things to exist in a certain way? And we say grasps onto it that way, but is it really that, That seems to be what we're calling into question, what Nagarjuna is.
And I think that's what this upcoming event will actually be helping us to unravel, is this question of, we want things to be a certain way, and our mind wants cause and effect to be a certain way, but maybe it's not. And that's why we're bringing these two great traditions together. The Nagarjuna tradition, when we've been teaching these classes for 4 years now, and then we're bringing the Medicine Buddha classes, which we've been doing for 3 years now, and we're merging them together in one retreat to explore all these ideas together. So we can get to that place. Like, if you want a certain result, how can you think about it in a way that can actually maybe have some hope of creating it? Right?
Wow, that sounds like a cool retreat.
It should be fun, yes. And we have someone here, I believe that there we are. Let's give a little bit of a hello. This is the director of Diamond Mountain, Sunam Lamo. And can you tell us a little bit about the event that's coming up, both in person, and why the in-person is awesome and awesomer than online, and why we do the online version too?
Thank you so much for having me. I was so inspired by your talk. And for me, the idea, one of the main ideas came up, like, the 2 wings you need to ride to enlightenment. And I think the retreat is the perfect combination. We have the Medicine Buddha, which is the compassion side. And we have Ayya Nagarjuna, which is the emptiness side. So I don't know about you guys, but my brain is already overheated by all the ideas which Nick and Tim put forth. And that's the correct time to go to the compassion. When your head is overheated, go to your heart, practice Medicine Buddha, be compassionate, make a pledge to remove sickness and war in the world. And the same idea was like, we have all these beautiful teachings, but we are sitting 90% of the time in front of this, screen with all these little squares. And that's beautiful. And that showers us with Dharma all year long. But once in a while, it is an incredible experience to go into deep retreat setting, not in your office, to be in the solitude and quietude of Diamond Mountain, and also to meet the teacher in person. So to have this magic once in a while is so beautiful. That's why I would like you to come to Diamond Mountain if it is possible for you. And we are ready for you to give you the perfect retreat. It's different. Tim, you know it. Nick, you know it. You have been here. You have done retreat. And I also have done a lot of these retreats at home. And it's beautiful and it's it drives you in your practice, but being there in person is just like the icing on the cake.
You twisted my arm. I'm feeling that longing. Hopefully I'll make it soon. I gotta go, but I appreciate you guys. I appreciate everybody. Really
Thank you, Nick, for joining us today. Thanks for sharing your wisdom, and thanks for all the hard work translating books and running the Diamond Cutter class. It's amazing. Thank you.
Come to Mixed Nuts as well to go deeper on this stuff. Tim's a mixed nut too, wherever he is. All right. Bye.
So I would like to give it back to you, Tim, because I said you have been here for long retreats and also this being there in person for the retreat, connecting with other people in person. It's just, as I said, it's the icing on the cake, which pushes your practice.
Yes, and I think there is a power to being in a retreat valley with other people who are doing the same practice together, and disconnecting to reconnect, right? And like you're in a way separating yourself from your normal life, which is also your normal thinking, right? We get lost in, not lost isn't the right word, but we get into habits of doing things in certain ways, and we need that dedicated time to be able to, shift our mind and our hearts towards the things that we know can have great impact. And our tradition is very clear that retreat is the place where that happens.
Yeah.
And at Diamond Mountain, not only are we going to be doing a deeper retreat and all the teachers are going to be there, we're also going to be dedicating the first Medicine Buddha stupa during this event. And through the generosity of our sponsors and many of you who have helped support building of the 7 stupas, stupa number 1 will be ready to go.
Good name, Suparakirti.
And we will be dedicating that. So it's a very auspicious retreat as well, to be able to be there for that dedication as Diamond Mountain becomes a pilgrimage point in the West for the Medicine Buddha. And it's in a way, it's going to be kind of a one-time only event, very special opening. So if you can come for the deep, to be in the presence of the teacher, the one who has translated all of this for us, who's translating Arya Nagarjuna, who's translating Medicine Buddha and making these teachings available. But if you're not able to come, and we understand that you might not be able to, we do have the online version. Don't worry. You can watch everything online. Sunam and Francisco did a test the other day, wandering around the stupa to see if we have cell phone coverage up there. So we're going to try to stream the opening ceremony and dedication practice that we will do up there so everyone can watch it. We have some other tricks up our sleeve that we're trying to work out as well. The optimal word is try. You never know, because sometimes weird things happen in retreat and then technology just doesn't work. And so we just give it up. So we have both of these options available. And as you know, you can join for, as all ACI courses, there is an option to join the main course, the main teachings, free of charge, because that's our mission. And as everybody knows, the world still, I got to figure out the Nagarjunian analysis of why I still see a world where money is important, or a world that operates based in money. You know, it still does cost money for us to run these events. You know, so that's why there's a cost to come to Diamond Mountain. And that's why some of our programming has a cost as well. So we do hope that you can join us. And if you can help support keeping these events low cost, as low cost as we can, please, if that's within your means and you're called to that, we would be very grateful to have additional support to be able to, during that sign-up process. So you can have a look at that as well. So thank you all for coming today. Thank you, ACI team. Again, I want to show all the people that you all can see. The people you see here are key for ACI. They've been supporting us in many, many, many different ways. Hi, Shanti and Terry. Didn't see you guys on there. You know, tech people, if you can, please turn on your cameras. That would be really lovely. So everyone can see, this is what happens in the background. Normally, you guys are just seeing this, right? You're just seeing the speakers. Hi, there's Tim and Sunam, right? But here's what's happening in the background, right? Here's all the people that really support us. And without all of you, without all of your dedication, and mind you, their dedication is also so full of passion for the ACI that you can't see them. Come on, host, put. So
I think they should remove our pin.
no, the thing is, it should be. Anyway, Nikita, could you, Nikita grabbed it. Okay, make sure it's just gallery view for everybody. Translators, tech people, this is all in the background. So, and many of these people do this for free. Okay. Without all of you, we wouldn't be able to reach the 11 languages, 12 languages we have. You know, and so I think there's a huge, I want to just celebrate all the people here that make this possible. And not everyone here is everybody we have, of course. We have a huge team who works in marketing. We have a huge team that works in last minute translations of 3 sentences. We call them Team Zero, Team Awesome, right? And I just want to celebrate each and every one of you, because without you, we wouldn't be able to do these kinds of things. And we wouldn't be able to spread these deep, confusing, mind-cracking, heart-opening ideas. You know, which ultimately inspire us to take care of others. And that's what I think we want, is we want a better world. And Nagarjuna and Medicine Buddha show us how to do it by understanding what the actual causes are for that better world. Causes that will ripen into the result that we look for, predictably. So thank you all very much for joining today. I'd like to thank Nick, who had to leave. He had another appointment he had to go to. As a director of Diamond Cutter Classics, he works his butt off to make that organization go. So we have a new way of doing mixed nuts that'll be announced very, very soon. So come to those classes. They're all free, like ACI. We need money too. And my job as executive director is to whine about it or inspire you, whichever way it is. But they're doing very, very great work over there, and very happy to have Nick for all of that. Finally, last thing is, if you want to learn more about Medicine Buddha, we have a free catch-up course, which starts when, Sunam? Next week?
Wednesday. We start Wednesday.
So starting on Wednesday, if we can get the link for a sign up in the chat, that'd be great too. It's a 5-week course, 4-week course, all things Medicine Buddha. You'll learn all of it, during the main retreat. But if you want to go deeper and get some deeper ideas ahead of time, Venerable Sunam and Venerable Gelse are leading a course on all things Medicine Buddha. And that's going to lead up to the required Wang, the required empowerment to be able to do Medicine Buddha practice. So join that as well. It's a phenomenal course. I think we have 300 people signed up already. Share that with your friends and your family. So thank you all very much for joining today. Thank you, ACI. Thank you, Diamond Mountain, for this joint event. This is really, really cool. And just seeing all of us work together as individual organizations, kind of trying to be more one. Are they separate? Are they, overlapped? We'll figure that out. Thank you for joining this morning, Sunam. I know I got you out of your pajamas early. And I hope you all have a great day. Anything else from the MC?
Thank you so much, everyone, for coming. We hope to see you at the in-person or online retreat. And thank you so much. See you next time.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a great day, everyone. Bye.